The Sara Carter Show is sponsored by MyPillow.com. That's MyPillow.com, folks. Get your sheets, get your dog beds, get your pillows at MyPillow.com. And remember to use the promo code Carter. That's CARTER. Use that promo code Carter for all your big discounts. Happy Election Eve, everyone. Happy Election Eve. So excited about this. This is a big day for us, right? Biden's lead is shrinking in the polls in Pennsylvania. He's shrinking all around the country. I'll talk a little bit about that in today's show. But before we get there, I want to talk about today's sponsor, and that is the Association of Mature American Citizens. They are sponsoring the Sara Carter Show. And it is the only conservative alternative to AARP. I want you to think about that. The only conservative alternative to AARP. Join the movement today at amac.us/Carter. Remember that. Join the movement today at amac.us/Carter. Let's get back to election because this is it. This is what we have been waiting for. And we are seeing the excitement. I mean, I can feel it. I know you can feel it too. Look at those crowds that are showing up for President Trump. Thousands of people. Did you see Butler, Pennsylvania? Could you even believe how many people in Pennsylvania just showed up in the cold, came out to see the president, came out to hear what he had to say? We're seeing it all across the board in Florida, in Michigan, in Wisconsin. It doesn't matter how cold it is, folks. People are out there to see the president. And this is really exciting. Joe Biden, he's making his rounds. But guess what? Guess what? People aren't showing up. They're just not showing up. I don't know if you at all saw the moment that President Obama was introducing Biden at one of the rallies, and Biden didn't even show up for like 3 or 4 calls. Like he had to keep saying, and Joe Biden. And then there was like this, like crickets. Joe Biden. Crickets. Biden, where are you? Crickets. Then Biden comes peeking around the corner and shows up on stage. It was like, okay, that's it. Joe Biden is just showing up late, right? That's what I'm seeing here. He's showing up late and the people aren't connecting with him. I want to talk a little bit about, though, how President Trump has affected the whole world. It isn't just about what's happening here nationally, but what we're seeing across the board. I mean, and across our great oceans, right? Even in Israel. I want to play a clip right now. This is something that is so exciting because this is about what President Trump has done, the changes he has made, what he's done to change our world. You know, if you think about this, 4 years ago, I mean, it's only been 4 years. And President Trump has gone through with the Abraham Accords. I mean, we're talking in foreign policy. He's ended the craziest deal with Iran that we could ever imagine. He's ended that with a terrorist state, the First Step Act, the North Korea summit, the summit with Russia, the stock market surges, and even now, dealing with COVID-19. Look at Europe. Look at the European economic system right now and what the European countries and our allies are going through dealing with COVID. It's terrible. It's a mess over there. And what we saw was historic 33.1% GDP. I mean, that's like skyrocketing. We've never seen anything like that. And that's during the time of COVID. Let me play you a clip. And I'm going to take you through some of the greatest moments here. Jenny was able to put together, Jenny Terre, remember she writes at SaraCarter.com. We want you to go there to read our latest stories. She put together these great clips of like the success of President Trump's past 4 years. Listen to this about the Abraham Accords. This is Prime Minister Netanyahu from Israel.
I am grateful to you, President Trump, for your decisive leadership. You have unequivocally stood by Israel's side. You have boldly confronted the tyrants of Tehran. You've proposed a realistic vision for peace between Israel and the Palestinians. And you have successfully brokered the historic peace that we are signing today
Wow. Think about what the prime minister is saying there about the list of successes that President Trump and his administration has had. I mean, nobody thought these Abraham Accords were even possible. This agreement, I mean, it was heralded as the dawn of a new Middle East, not just by the White House, but by Israel and by our allies in the Middle East. Jordan, Saudi Arabia, others. Think about what this has done to change lives and save lives. That's what we need to think about. I want to play you a clip right here. 2017, let's bring it back home. This is about our tax cuts. Look at what President Trump was able to do here.
And all of this, everything in here is really tremendous things for businesses, for people, for the middle class, for workers. And I consider this very much a bill for the middle class and a bill for jobs. And jobs are produced through companies and corporations. And you see that happening. Corporations are literally going wild over this. I think even beyond my expectations, so far beyond my expectations. So I'll sign this today rather than having a very big formal ceremony in 2 weeks when we were going to do it, because I didn't want you folks to say that I wasn't keeping my promise. I am keeping my promise. I'm signing it before Christmas.
I mean, that's huge. Not only did regular middle class Americans benefit from this tax cut, but these tax cuts made a difference for our corporation and businesses. And some of you out there might say, why shouldn't they pay more? You know, there's more money. And think about this. Think about when our companies, American companies, have these kind of tax cuts. They can bring jobs home. They can actually do the work here. They can hire American workers. When you save companies money, you save money all the way around and you save jobs. That is a huge, huge deal. These were significant changes to the individual income tax. It included reforms to itemized deductions, and it was an alternative to minimum tax. It expanded standard deductions, and it gave us child tax credits that were higher and lower marginal tax rates. President Trump promised lower taxes, and that's what he got us. That was another promise kept. Let's go back overseas. Let's play a clip from North Korea. This is from the North Korean summit. I want you to think about what happened here, right, with North Korea.
It's my honor today to address the people of the world following this very historic summit with Chairman Kim Jong-un of North Korea. Spent very intensive hours together, and I think most of you have gotten the signed document, or you will very shortly. It's very comprehensive. It's going to happen. I stand before you as an emissary of the American people to deliver a message of hope and vision and a message of peace.
I want you to think about how far away from war we went by President Trump's outreach to North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. A tyrant, yes. A terrible leader, probably yes. Look at what's happened to his people. We don't want to forget what he's done to Americans over there. But let's think about this. We haven't seen him reacting the same way he reacted to President Obama's policies with North Korea. There has been a de-escalation, and that's the most important thing for all of us. Why? Because this is about America first. This is about protecting this nation from war, from escalation of wars overseas. And that's what we've seen with President Trump. He's kept those promises. He hasn't led us into war. In fact, he's trying to pull us out. Afghanistan is pretty much a wrap-up. And that's what President Trump wants to do. He wants to see American lives saved. He wants to mitigate the problems that we've seen in the past, especially with wounded veterans and wounded soldiers like my husband. And he wants to do that by limiting the U.S. role overseas and telling the nations of Afghanistan and other countries, you have to resolve your own problems. We are going to do everything we can to help you as long as it protects our national security. But we are not going to do what we did in the past. And I think the American public wanted that, needed that, and has responded well to that. I want to go to one more clip here. This is CNBC stock market prediction for the 2020 election. I think this is really important, something I'm very excited about.
Donald Trump will be better for the stock market than former Vice President Joe Biden. 45% of Americans say the stock market will go up in a year if President Trump is elected. Just 32% say so for Biden. 25% think it will go down if Trump's elected. 38% think so for Biden. And more Biden supporters think the market's going to go up under Trump than Trump supporters think it'll go up under Biden.
Isn't that exciting? I mean, isn't that what we want? We want to see our stock market just go crazy. We want to make money. We want our lives to get back to normal. We don't want to be living in doom and gloom Biden land. We don't want to be living in Biden's basement. We want to be excited about the future, excited about our country. We're going to get a vaccine to COVID-19. We're going to get that vaccine. And by the way, you're going to want to stick around. I've got Erin Perrine here. She is the Trump campaign director for press communications for President Trump, and she is remarkable. We have so much to talk to her about. And I'm also going to be talking a little bit about this virtue signaling mask wearing issue at the end of this podcast. I want you to stick around for the interview with Erin, as well as at the end of the podcast, where we're going to have a little bit of fun, but we're going to talk about some serious issues that we're dealing with about the virtue signaling, leftist, liberals, Marxist, socialist crazies out there, and these masks that they're making us wear. But before I get to Erin, I want to talk to you about Brick House Nutrition. I mean, this is awesome. This is a great, great product. And, life is about habits. This year, we have been more focused than ever on the health of ourselves. I mean, stuck in the house with COVID-19 and those we love. But what happens after all this? How do you plan to ensure that your body's immune system is ready for winter and beyond? Well, I know what I did. I recommend you take Field of Greens. It's by Brick House Nutrition. I take it every day. It's loaded with antioxidants. Field of Greens is packed with 18 clinically researched essential fruits and vegetables, plus green tea, ginger, turmeric, and beets. All of that stuff is so good for you. And it tastes great. This powerful combination not only can support your heart health, but it also supports a healthy immune system, metabolism, blood pressure, and digestion. Complete with pre- and probiotics, Field of Greens is not only good for you, it's good for your entire family, even the athletes and children living in your home. Just put 1 scoop in a glass of water, stir, and you are done. Go to Field of Greens 15. That's 15.com and get 15% off your first order with the promo code Carter. Don't forget to use that Carter, Carter, at your checkout. It's available in multiple flavors. Field of Greens 15.com, Field of Greens 15.com, promo code Carter. Hey, Erin, so happy to have you on the Sara Carter Show. Thank you so much for taking your time from such a busy, hectic schedule. Last day of campaigning before the election.
Well, we're all just trying to keep up with the president. We're all staying busy, and I'm happy to be on.
The stamina that President Trump has is, I talk to people in their 20s, and they say they can't even keep up with him.
I don't know how he does it. We're all just running off the energy of him, off this campaign, off this movement. Every city we're in, every state we're in, the crowds are incredible. The enthusiasm is there. President Trump feels great. And so we're ready to bring home the victory for him.
That's what I feel. I feel this energy, this surge of energy, kind of a reawakening in America. I mean, it's bigger, in fact, than I remember in 2016. And I thought in 2016, it couldn't get any bigger.
Oh, that's right. I mean, when you saw 16 and you saw that grassroots movement, people thought that was going to be the top. That was the ceiling of where President Trump could hit. And they, we were all wrong. There's more and more people coming into the fold. I mean, we see at each and every one of these rallies, each and every one of these stops, at least a quarter of the registrants are modeling Democrats, and a quarter of the registrants didn't vote in 2016. So not only is the enthusiasm high, the grassroots enthusiasm, the boat parades, the car parades, the flags, but we're seeing more and more people come into the fold, and that's because they see President Trump. They see the results. They see an economy that's working. They see more opportunity for every American, Black Americans, Latino Americans, Asian Americans, women, all hit record low unemployment. And they want 4 more years of that. They don't want Joe Biden's dark winter.
Right. And you see the Amish have even thrown a parade for President Trump. Go to Israel, you see they're throwing parades for him in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, people going down the streets. I mean, even in foreign countries are throwing parades for President Trump, which I think that kind of enthusiasm really is going to spill over tomorrow at the polls.
I mean, absolutely. That enthusiasm and the ground game to marry the enthusiasm for a candidate like President Trump. We built the greatest ground game and data operation in political history. And what we have been able to do is find our voters, see how they're going to vote. And now on Election Day, when it comes to that get out the vote effort, we actually have the folks. We know where they are and who they are to get them turned out for President Trump. And listen, we're projecting between 62 and 64% of the votes tomorrow on Election Day are going to go to President Trump. And that means we're going to win 4 more years.
That's huge. So let's get serious. Let's talk about this. That's a really huge turnout. You know, there are very few people out there. People are saying, well, you know, we see the polls shrinking now. I say, like my husband said a week ago, you know what? The polls are going to shrink the closer we get to Election Day because the media has been pushing out propaganda and lies in their polls, trying to dissuade people from voting for President Trump. But when it gets closer, you're going to see them try to salvage themselves. And that's something that President Trump has been talking about. When you see these thousands of people at the rallies showing up in Butler, Pennsylvania, in Michigan, in Wisconsin for the president, you got to say to yourself, what was the mainstream media pushing out there? Do you see a difference in these polls? Do you see any shifts? What is the campaign saying as far as the actual polling that is taking place right now?
Oh, yeah. The polling at this point, any polling that comes out at this point, it's just a waste of time because now it's Election Day. And what we saw from the media was malpractice through this entire year where they tried to suppress the enthusiasm for President Trump. I can't tell you how many reporters I have heard say, oh, well, if coronavirus had to happen, you guys would be sailing to re-election. We were all saying that for so long. I was like, wait, were you living in the world I lived in pre-coronavirus? Because all you guys were saying was how we were going to lose and how he had no chance. And now so they're just always trying to suppress the enthusiasm for President Trump's supporters. Our data operation models these voters, and we know who they are and their propensity to come out, and that's going to make the difference come tomorrow.
Erin, one of the things that I think is most interesting, and I think probably one of the most important reasons people are connected to President Trump's campaign is because they know he's a fighter for them. He's a fighter. He's the underdog or apparent underdog all the time, battling both the media, big tech, the rhinos, which I call the never Trumpers, as well as, you know, the Democrats and the leftist liberals. He's up against an onslaught. And we saw that even at his rally today where he talked about, you know, the media basically failing to do its job, basically failing to report the truth to the American people. Do you think that beyond all of that, the American people are actually witnessing kind of a reawakening through what I call this Trump presidency? I don't even say it's a Republican reawakening. I say it's a Trump reawakening, where the American people feel they finally have someone in their court that is going to back them up and defend them.
Absolutely. The American people know they have someone in their court who has their back, who is fighting for them in a way that's never been done before. And the results show that doing it the way President Trump is doing it is paying off. And that's why you see things like 56% of the American people know they're better off now than they were 4 years ago. They know that the tax cuts, the deregulation, the opportunity zones, the rebuilding of our military, the getting government out of the way and allowing the American people to succeed works. And that's why when they're by themselves and they're in a voting booth and they're looking at what their data is, like what their lives are saying and what their hearts are saying, they're going to say, you know what? The results are there. This is a guy who delivered. Joe Biden promised 47 years of he would put America first. He's not going to get it right in the 48th year.
How do you feel about Pennsylvania? The polls are tightening up there. We saw the huge crowds. Do you think he's going to pull Pennsylvania off again like he did in 2016?
I think that Pennsylvania is very much doable for the president. And he's been out there. He's been campaigning. And that's why you've seen him there the entire time, is because these are people, especially in Western Pennsylvania, where the jobs out there are for, energy jobs. And Joe Biden's going out there today with a known anti-fracker and somebody so out of touch in Lady Gaga to talk about this, that people in Pennsylvania, and here's something that Bill Stepien just put out. President Trump and Joe Biden are both going to Pennsylvania today. And Democrats have banked a ton of high propensity voters, those who will show up and they're your 3 out of 4s, your 4 out of 4s voting every 4 years. And there are millions of voters left. President Trump's election day margin needs to be significant. And we on the campaign are projecting an election day vote can cast a margin of over a million people over Joe Biden's votes for President Trump tomorrow in Pennsylvania, just based on who's voted and what the turnout models look like for the campaign.
That's huge. That's huge. I've been talking to people, too, in Florida, in Arizona. They're seeing a huge surge for President Trump in Florida. How do you feel about Michigan? Because President Trump said there, and he was talking about it. He's a red wave is coming. And I've been hearing that a lot, too. We have seen a shift both with Black voters, with other minority voting blocs, fastest growing Latino voters, right? Shifting towards President Trump. And we've seen how Michigan, really the Democrats have failed Michigan, failed the people of Michigan. And now we're seeing a shift. Do you think that shift is going to be significant enough to do something spectacular come tomorrow? Or do you think that red wave is just moving in and then with another 4 years of President Trump will hold steady and then overcome?
You know what? I think that Michigan is very winnable for the president tomorrow. I'm in Michigan. I've been here for a few days, and the enthusiasm for him is sky high. And the way that President Trump rewrote the political landscape across the country in 2016, it's going to happen again here in 2020, and it's going to look different this time as well. Why? Because we're going to bring more Black voters into the fold, especially in a state like Michigan. You're going to also see in states like Florida where more Latino voters are coming into the fold. We're going to break records across the United States. And listen, Democrats have banked, again, in Michigan, their voters. All Democrats did wasn't bring new people into the fold. We're seeing it state after state. In a state like Michigan, we're seeing it as well. They didn't bring new people in. They got their people to vote early. They scared their people from voting on Election Day. And so now it's our job. They've already showed us their game plan. We know where their votes are. We have nearly 2 million votes left in Michigan to be cast that we think can come into that can come in. And so with that, we need to win by about 350,000 votes in Michigan. We're projecting a margin of about 400,000 votes tomorrow in Michigan based off of what Democrats have already had come out, what we have come out, what's left on the table to get, and our ability to turn those voters out.
Wow, that's huge. That's huge news. And if President Trump and the team can do that tomorrow, that's going to change the outcome, I think, for politics for decades afterwards, especially because now we're seeing so many people, both within the minority communities. And I'm talking about the Black communities today, even with Maxine Waters. She came out and made some statements this weekend, basically saying she was so disappointed that young Black voters would be going to Trump. She'd never forgive him. And all of a sudden you see young Black voters coming out and saying, wait a minute, who are you to tell me who I have to vote for? We want somebody that's going to give back to our community, somebody who actually cares about our urban communities and wants to help our youth and wants to build small businesses and wants to rebuild places like Detroit, places like Chicago, places like LA. And if President Trump can actually deliver that message the way he's been delivering it for the last 4 years and deliver it in such a significant way that we see a shift in Michigan and in other parts of the country, I really do believe that's going to change politics for the next decade or so and how people reach out to communities. It's far different than what the Republican Party has done in the past, Erin.
Absolutely. President Trump has reshaped the Republican Party. He's reshaped national politics in a way that nobody expected. Nobody expected a Republican presidential candidate would be opening offices targeting the Black community in downtown Detroit, Michigan. Nobody thought that would be happening. Why? Because they never expected someone like Donald Trump, who truly nothing else matters to him than the American people. He wants to make sure we are fighting for everybody for years to come. And the biggest thing right now is the get out the vote effort. We have just hours until Election Day. And tomorrow, those votes that are available, they have to show up. We know they can. We know that we want them to, but everybody needs to make sure they show up and vote tomorrow.
there's a lot of concern in Washington, D.C., not too far from the studios here where we're recording, and in other parts of the country where people are boarding up their businesses. They're worried about maybe Antifa or other groups causing problems on Election Day. There's also, there's this enormous concern, too, that all the votes might not be counted. We saw what happened, in Pennsylvania. There's a lot of disappointment in the court's decision there. Is there any worry among the campaign how we're going to handle this moving forward as the votes are being tallied, as they're being counted? What are your concerns? What is the president's concerns? And how do you hope to overcome any of those obstacles?
Yeah, well, all the boarding up you see in these cities of cities worried about violence, it's because they know Donald Trump's going to win. It isn't Trump supporters who go out and loot and riot and burn down cities. No. That is the radical left that is Joe Biden's base that is out there doing that. So we know that these cities are bracing for that red wave, that red tsunami. They see it coming, and they are trying to prepare for the radical left trying to scare the American people. And two, on election integrity, we want to make sure that, and this is what we have been fighting for months, is to make sure that every person who can vote can do so and do so once in the United States. We want clear and clean rules on how to vote. And it's been Democrats who've tried to upend the election system by sowing chaos into it, by trying to undermine the results. And they time and again tell the American people not to believe what they will see with their own eyes tomorrow. So we are prepared. We know the laws in these states. We know how things are going to be voted and what time they're going to be, those ballots are going to begin to be counted in these states. And we're ready. We have the operation to do it, but it's Democrats who are trying to undermine the election integrity in the United States. President Trump has been standing firmly for it, and we're going to make sure we protect it tomorrow as well.
So you have a lot of lawyers all across the country getting ready for this. This is a really huge deal. I mean, and this is probably depending on what happens. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty here, but your campaign, the campaign, Trump campaign, feels like they're ready to take it on no matter what happens, right?
Absolutely. We're ready. We've got the team and the mechanism, and we know where we need to be and when, and we're going to make sure we can protect election integrity in the United States and not allow Democrats to try to steal this.
I think that's great. And I think that's very, very important, particularly now. We've never seen anything quite like this. This is a historic election. And if anything, we're seeing so many people vested in voting and so many people that are now vested in being a part of the political system. And I think that's incredible because we do live in such a great nation. I want to ask you a really fun question before I let you go. I'm hearing President Trump, he says he might host the election night party at the White House. Do you know anything about that? Has that been solidified? Is that firm? Is the party going to be at the White House, the victory party?
I don't have anything to share on what the election night's going to look like at this point. I think that things are still getting hammered out. But I can tell you this much, wherever we are as Team Trump, we're going to be celebrating tomorrow night because we know we're getting 4 more years. But it's up to everybody to make sure they get out and vote.
Wow. Thank you so much, Erin. I really appreciate you taking the time. Stay warm there in Michigan. I know it's very, very cold. It's getting cold all across the country, but I think we're going to feel warm hearts tomorrow night.
Thank you.
I have some other good news for everyone out there right now. And you know how much I love animals. Well, this news is from Arm & Hammer, and it includes cats. Arm & Hammer Cat Litter has launched their new Perfectly Imperfect campaign to help lovable but overlooked shelter cats find caring forever homes. I have one of those cats. His name is Barry. He's huge. He's a lot of fun. Jenny likes to play with him. He's this big Maine Coon-like cat that loves to catch all kinds of critters outside and bring me treats. He's a lot of fun, and he's great with kids. The cats at shelters really, really are the best animals you can get because they know you're saving their life, right? So from now until November 30th, shelters and cat lovers can nominate a perfectly imperfect feline friend on FelineGenerousStories.com. That's FelineGenerousStories.com. It's a fun way to help cats find caring pet parents through shelters. 3 shelters will win $10,000 each. Think about that. Plus, Arm & Hammer is awarding $100 worth of litter to the first 100 eligible entrants. That's a lot. Visit FelineGenerousStories.com for official rules to learn more. That's FelineGenerousStories.com for official rules and to learn more. Okay, I promised you all that I would get back to the masks. These COVID-19 masks that we're all wearing to protect ourselves and other people and all of that good stuff that comes with doing what we believe is the right thing to do to protect our fellow man from this horrible epidemic. For those people that have low immune systems, that are most vulnerable, that's what we're doing this for. But have you felt like me, like everybody out there is virtue signaling with their masks and that we're never going to come out of this? Like, I'm really hopeful. We're going to have a vaccine. We're going to get better. We're going to get over this, just like we do with any kind of virus that we've had to deal with. And we've had some doozies, right? We've seen some really terrible things, even in our own lifetime. HIV, different kind of virus, but still terrible and horrible. We've seen, H1N1, swine flu, all of this. But now these masks have become kind of this, like, I'm a mask wearer. I'm a virtue signaler. I'm going to tell you how I feel. I'm going to put my statement on my mask. I am so sick and tired of this. Look, I got to tell you what happened the other night. I was with some of our friends. We went to dinner, one of our favorite Mexican restaurants. And this isn't a one-time event, by the way. I'm not talking about the Mexican restaurant. I'm going to tell you, it's not a one-time event. What happened to us at the Mexican restaurant? So we go in, we say hi to the people we know. Of course, they're wearing masks. We have our masks, but they're in our hands because we're coming from the outside. There's like no one really sitting in the restaurant except for one couple, these two gentlemen. And so the guy says, no, don't worry about it. I'm walking you around here. I'm going to sit you at the table. There's no one there. There's like no one there except for the person that's guiding us in, the manager. And he's talking to us and he's like, don't worry about it. I'm just going to sit you at the table because we have all our kids with us. Well, the two men sitting at a table put their masks on, getting ready to leave. They immediately, one of them pulled down their mask and said, why isn't this great? Don't you have any masks you should be wearing? Shouldn't you have your mask on your face? Like, they thought we were going to, like, what? I don't know, contaminate them, our family. There was no one else in the restaurant. We weren't even near them. They had to stand up and make a big scene, and what was interesting is that he pulled down his mask, which, by the way, had like resistance on it. His mask literally said resistance. Pulled down his mask to tell us that. We're like, yeah, you just pulled down your mask. Why don't you put it back on? Because you're the one that's most worried about it, But it's this idea that people can just walk up to you on the street and kind of berate you, call you out. They're trying to make people who are logical thinkers, people like you and me, who know that when we go outside and we're not around anyone, and we're going for a walk, we can walk without a mask on our face. What are we trying to protect ourselves from? What? Is there something else out there that I don't know? That when you go into a room and so we could sit at a table without a mask on, but if we're walking to the table, somehow we're going to transmit the virus? Like, no one's explained that to me. That's an unexplainable thing. I mean, this is out of control. And now we've got everybody putting these resist and, BLM and if you vote for Trump, you ain't black, whatever, all over their masks, like politicizing the COVID-19. And I got to tell you something else, too, that really bothered me. And it's weird. It shouldn't have bothered me. And I didn't let my daughter know that it bothered me because she's little. She's, 8 years old. But she was so excited. She came home from school and she's like, oh, Mom, I want to get these really cool masks with like cats on them. And like these masks that have unicorns and masks that have. And I was thinking to myself as I was, getting ready to go on Amazon to check out these masks. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Are we all of a sudden accepting this as like a way of life for us? Are we all of a sudden just going to be ordering masks with like sparkles on? Have you seen this? Masks with sparkles. And these aren't even N95 masks, guys. We're walking around with a piece of cloth on our face. Remember, I grew up in Saudi Arabia. I spent my childhood in the kingdom of Saudi Arabia where women had to cover their faces by law. By law. Little kids could walk around, but women, adult women, could not walk outside without having their faces covered. It didn't matter how pretty the veil was. It didn't matter if there was a gold cage around her face, by the way, which some of them do have. It didn't matter if there were diamonds hanging off of it. I don't want my face covered up. I want to be able to look at my fellow human beings. I want to see them smile. I want to see them get mad at me. I'm actually like really excited to go to New York and hear someone just yell the F-bomb at me, get out of the effing road. I want to hear that again. I want to have some communication with other human beings where I'm not staring at their virtue signaling mask. Thank you so much for being a part of the Sara Carter Show Day. We've got a big day tomorrow. It's election day. We got to put somebody in there who's willing to fight for us, somebody who isn't afraid to tell the truth, somebody who isn't going to give in to the special interest groups. And by the way, folks, that is President Trump. He is going to stand up for you, for your individual rights, for your freedom, for your liberty or lockdown. I want you to think about it. I want you to think about what the next 4 years would be like should Biden win. And that should scare you. You should be running to go vote. Get out there and vote. And even if you don't want to vote for President Trump, get out there and vote. It's your duty as an American, right? It's the peaceful transition of power. We all have that duty. We all have that right. Thank you so much again for being a part of the Sara Carter Show. I'm coming to you from the beautiful Radio America in Arlington, Virginia. And you can follow me at Sara Carter DC on Twitter. Follow me also on Parler at Sara Carter Official. And remember to subscribe and give us a 5-star rating on your Apple Podcast or Spotify, or whatever you listen to. We actually read those reviews. We care about what you have to say, and we will take it to heart. We're taking the story back. See you on the flip side of Election Day.